I'm joined by psychologist Ian Wallace, who's going to talk to us about gifted children. Thank you once again for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, what are the signs of a gifted child?
Important things are that gifted kids are not taught kids. Gifted kids naturally have an inclination to learn. They're usually very inquisitive kids and very perceptive kids. They may be overly sensitive as well as that. They're usually looking for more stimulation and excitement in the world and demanding knowledge and thirsting. And important that they're more self-taught than learnt. So the sort of kids that naturally pick things up, they teach them things and you didn't teach them to read, all of a sudden you just find they're reading. Or you didn't teach them numbers and all of a sudden you find out they're not just counting but they're adding up. And they ask lots of questions because they want to know more about the world past what other kids do.
Absolutely. What age can you detect this?
Usually from the first signs of learning, so from about 2 or close to 2, you start seeing things like a very advanced vocabulary, very advanced early number skills, a very broad language, so they don't sort of learn to speak in 2 or 3 words. All of a sudden great phrases are coming out. They're using a lot of adult phrases automatically at that stage, and they're usually relating to kids well above themselves. Even at 3 or 4, you'll find them relating to 6 or 7-year-olds rather than relating to their own age group.
Yep. Now obviously all parents to some degree think their own child is gifted.
Yep.
How do you separate that from a really gifted child?
Yeah, what we're looking at is 2 real things. One is how much of it is being taught, because a gifted kid is not being taught lots of skills. Yeah. It's something they just acquire themselves. And 2 is that you need a professional assessment, because you really need to find out where your child is gifted if they genuinely are, and then they do need enhancement that other kids won't get, because otherwise all sorts of problems face gifted kids as well.
Absolutely. What are some of those problems?
Often they feel very different. Often gifted kids are very sensitive as well emotionally, so they're more likely to be teased, more likely to be confused about themselves. They often wonder, why am I different? Later on they often do what we call dumbing down, because they're being teased and bullied because they're the sort of nerd of the school and they're not fitting in. They're excluded from games and they're not allowed to join in other stuff, or the kids that aren't as clever as them want to push them down, so then the gifted kids make themselves look stupid. Or they muck up a lot because they're just understimulated. If they're not giving it enough enhancement work and enrichment work, because they're so bored, they start to create entertainment for themselves, which might be disrupting the whole class, or might be, causing mayhem because it's kind of fun to see what happens next.
So when you detect that you do have a gifted child, what's that balance between encouraging it and then obviously having them go to the other extreme where they just don't want it?
Yeah, the important thing is encourage them and get outside just doing harder work. What a lot of parents make a mistake is saying, oh, he's gifted, therefore he needs harder work. So the teacher gives them an extra math sheet, or mum gives them some extra spelling words. It's not really about harder work. The important thing is to let them learn in their own way, let them to discover things their own way. So like open up the internet to them and what would you like to find out about that? Or let them find their way to things, like how would you like to learn this? How would you like to figure what's next? I was thinking this way, but maybe you want to go that way or this way with it, because really gifted kids want to learn in their own ways. They want to discover the things themselves. They're already thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead, so just teaching them tends to stifle them.
Yep, and this can also be encouraged at home as well as school?
Yeah, look, doing it at home is really important, because realistically, in a busy classroom, not all kids can get the enhancement they want. If you've got a really switched on teacher, they'll get some enhancement opportunities and enrichment opportunities, or they might have the ability to participate in a genuine gifted program. But parents can do a mass at home, because you can open the internet up to them. You can open up other ways for them to discover things on their own, or you can get them to go to gifted workshops, or a lot of gifted organisations have processes for kids to learn. An important thing for kids to do that at home or on weekends is they fit in with other gifted kids, because often they feel quite different. I'm 1 or 2 gifted kids at school and I'm alienated, but all of a sudden here's 30 of us on the weekend that all love science and all love dinosaurs and and we all can relate at that level. And you suddenly realise, gee, there's a place in the world for me. There's somewhere I'm actually going to fit in and be accepted, and there's other kids like me.
Yeah. Well, what about at home in families where there are 2 or 3 children and one's gifted? Yep. How can parents sort of adapt and not make the other 2 or 3 children feel like they're not as smart or as special?
Yeah, it's really looking at each kid's strengths, because your child in this case might be really gifted, one of the others might be very good at sport, and one might just be a really caring kid. And so we need to build each kid's strengths and say, hey, look, you're really gifted in that way, but perhaps you're not as good at actually caring for other people when they're in need, or hey, you're really good at sport and that's your strength, and give each kid a belief that there's something you're good in, and being gifted academically is just one of those things.